Hey everybody, this is Matt Atkinson, and you're watching Forward Gettysburg with Aaron Smith.
What is going on, everybody? Aaron Smith here for Forward Gettysburg. Thank you guys so much for joining me for another great episode. I am super excited to talk about today's episode. We are talking about the Bloody Railroad Cut. So before I get into it, if you guys are enjoying the content, enjoying learning more about the Gettysburg campaign with me, please remember to like and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it so much. And now my little intro's out of the way, so let's get into it. So, a little bit of background information. You know, we always got to start with the background info. July 1st, 1863, the Confederate Army has made its way east toward Gettysburg. Heath's division is deploying on Ers Ridge, however you want to call it. Archer's brigade is making an attack through the McPherson Woods, which are going to be directly behind the camera there. And Davis's brigade is going to be making an attack just north of the Chambersburg Pike. One of those attacks is going to be more successful than the other. Archer's brigade is going to be checked by the men with the black hats. That's right, the Iron Brigade. They're going to push them back through the woods. Well, 4 regiments of the Iron Brigade are going to push them back through the woods and check them there near Willoughby Run and McPherson's Woods. North of the Pike, things aren't going so great. Davis's brigade has gotten the better of Cutler's brigade. Those men are starting to fall back, and here we are. Here comes the tail end of the Iron Brigade, the last regiment in line, making their way through the field. They marched all the way from the Cadore farm across those farm fields that will eventually become the place where Pickett's charge happens. They're making their way here to the west end of town from the south, and they are crossing through this little bit of a swale behind me right in front of the seminary. You might be able to see the seminary building, probably one of the most famous buildings in Gettysburg, directly behind me. They are making their way through this swale, and there is a messenger that's going to ride up and see Lieutenant Colonel Rufus Dawes, commander of the 6th Wisconsin. I told myself before I started filming, I'm going to pronounce Wisconsin correctly every single time I say it today. And boy, am I going to say it a lot. So that is my goal for today's episode. I have a really bad habit of saying Wisconsin. So I'm going to say Wisconsin correctly every single time today. And if I do, make sure you like and comment below that you saw me pronounce Wisconsin correctly. Anyway. They're making their way through this swale between McPherson's Ridge, which is this area where I'm at. They're between Seminary Ridge and McPherson's Ridge. They are making their way through there. A messenger is going to stop him and tell Lieutenant Colonel Rufus Dawes to form your line and prepare for battle. At this point, the 6th Wisconsin, they are getting ready to move into these woods. However, another messenger, Lieutenant Benjamin Martin of General Doubleday's staff, he's going to catch Rufus Dawes just moments later with new orders to move to the right at once. The right flank of the Union line at McPherson's Ridge, like I said, they are getting pressed in. They are getting pushed back by Davis's brigade of Mississippians and North Carolinians. Davis's brigade being the 2nd Mississippi, the 42nd Mississippi, and the 55th North Carolina. So with these new orders, they're going to make their way toward the Chambersburg Pike. And they are going to get a messenger. Captain James Woods, the brigade adjutant of the Iron Brigade, is going to ride up and deliver orders to Dawes that say, quote, "Go like hell." The situation on the right flank of the Union line, of the freshly developing Union line, has become incredibly dire. Things are not going good over there. As Dawes gets the message, he's going to be up on his horse, and he has a better vantage point than the men down on the ground. And he can see the 147th New York just over there is quickly becoming outflanked by Davis's brigade, and they are now in full retreat. He also sees Paul's battery falling back to the east. It's also said at this time, according to Harry Fonz's Gettysburg, the first day, an excellent read about the first day's action here. It's also said that the men of the 6th Wisconsin see soldiers carrying a body draped in a blanket. John Reynolds' body, who had just been shot moments earlier. As Dawes continues to head north towards the Chambersburg Pike from this area, he realizes that he is coming up on the flank of Davis's brigade. and he saw that he could strike a devastating blow to Davis. He's going to see this. He is going to order the men to move forward at the double quick, and they're going to move forward. As that's happening, Davis's brigade is coming closer to the pike right before the railroad cut, and they're going to see these Union men coming toward them. Dawes's Wisconsinites are going to advance rapidly, rifles at right shoulder, and they are going to have to go through this, what is described as a leaden storm. There are bullets, there are mini balls flying all over the place. This is going to be a terrible, terrible spot to be in. So directly behind me here is the Chambersburg Pike, the area that Rufus Dawes' 6th Wisconsin is quickly approaching. As they're approaching, Davis's brigade is going to reach this slight little rise directly behind the camera, and we're going to show that a little bit later on here. But they're going to reach that rise. But however, by this point, the 2nd Mississippi, the 42nd Mississippi, and the 55th North Carolina have become jumbled together. It's not very organized at this point for the rebels. Major Alfred Bellow, commanding the 55th North Carolina, is going to suggest to Major John Blair, who is commanding the 2nd Mississippi, that the side who charged first would hold the field. However, the rebels, they're exhausted at this point. They had spent the entire morning driving back Cutler's brigade north of the Chambersburg Pike here. So they are exhausted, they're sweaty, it's a hot morning in July, but nonetheless, they're going to prepare to make this assault. And as they're making preparations for this charge, they're going to receive orders from Davis to fall back and reform on Earl's Ridge along with the rest of Heath's division. However, the units were too disorganized to carry out this order. They were too disorganized, too jumbled together. There were elements of the 55th North Carolina mixed in with the 2nd Mississippi and so on and so forth, that it was almost impossible with the impending Union attack for these Southerners to reform into their regiment, into an organized brigade, and move back toward Hare's Ridge without taking an incredible amount of casualties. They would have been smashed in the rear. So they decide that they're going to stick it out and fight out this attack. Meanwhile, in this area behind me, we have the 14th Brooklyn and the 95th New York. They're going to be posted just south of the Chambersburg Pike, near the McPherson Barn and the McPherson Farm at the time. Of course, the only building remaining is the barn. It's a very iconic building here at Gettysburg directly behind me. But they're going to be posted in that area from McPherson's Woods all the way up to the Chambersburg Pike, and they're going to be supporting Hall's battery, which is going to rest on their right flank. Now, they were facing some intermittent firing from their front left, from Archer's assault through McPherson's Woods. However, once the Iron Brigade drives back Archer's brigade, they're no longer going to have an immediate threat in their front. However, they are going to have an immediate threat to their right flank, that being Davis's brigade. And now we have this flanking fire. So Colonel Edward Fowler, who was in charge of this demi-brigade of these 2 New York regiments, he's going to organize his troops into column and march toward the pike here. Now, Edward Fowler at the time has no idea that Dawes and his Wisconsinites are also moving. They're back in his rear, so it's very likely he had no idea that they were back there. He is going to move his men up here to the Chambersburg Pike. And as he's getting into position, Dawes' 6th Wisconsin is going to take a position on his right flank. Now, the rebels here, they're going to be posted over in this direction. The rebels are going to be posted just behind me here. And basically what's going to happen is that Dawes is able to provide a flanking fire upon Davis's left flank. As this flanking fire is taking place, these Confederate men, they are not about to get shot in their flank and get decimated. So they are then going to take cover in the railroad cut. So I'm standing right on what would eventually become the right flank of the 95th New York. So Like I said earlier, these Confederate men, they're going to take cover in the railroad cut. And to these oncoming Union men, it's going to seem like they just disappeared into the ground, like the earth swallowed them up. One private in the 6th Wisconsin, Private Augustus Klein, he called them cowardly sons of bitches for using the railroad cut as cover. So now Davis's brigade has this pretty awesome rifle trench with great cover to fire upon the Union soldiers. By this point, the Union has taken position along the fence on the south end of the Chambersburg Pike. The pike at the time was bordered by 2 sets of farm fences. So they're going to take positions behind this fence and use the fence post as kind of a rifle rest to take aim. And now, realizing that the Mississippians have this pretty sweet rifle trench to just fire on them, and the fence is not great cover, Dawes is going to order his Wisconsin men over top of the fences to take this position. And Dawes is going to describe, he's going to write that climbing that fence was a sure test of mettle and discipline. I can only imagine taking so much fire, then having to climb over fences to then assault the enemy that's in this, kind of natural made, well, not natural, this man-made pit here. That's a very defensible position. However, we're going to soon see that the railroad cut is going to be Davis's brigade's undoing. Dawes orders his men forward, double quick, a line on the color, and they're going to make their way toward this area. It's going to be about 175 paces from the Chambersburg Pike, where they are, to the railroad cut. The 6th is going to move forward on this eastern end of the railroad cut, followed by the 95th New York in the center, and then the 14th Brooklyn in an almost echelon-like movement, where the 6th moved first, followed by the 95th New York, followed by the 14th Brooklyn. The men, they're going to charge through an incredibly heavy fire. A hailstorm of lead is going to come at them. And in fact, it's written down that the 6th Wisconsin is going to lose every single man in their color guard as a casualty, either killed or wounded. Lieutenant Colonel Rufus Dawes himself would estimate that about 160 men would fall during this charge. As they reach this area, the 2nd Mississippi, they have their flag planted in some loose ground. And there's going to be an intense struggle over this flag, and it's going to go on for a little bit. Private William Murphy, one of the color bearers for the 2nd Mississippi, he's going to describe it as the most deadly struggle he had witnessed during the war. So this is going to be some intense hand-to-hand fighting over this flag here. It is going to be an absolutely vicious struggle here. Hand-to-hand, close fighting, knockdown type of fighting over this flag. Of course, we know during the Civil War that the flags meant so much for the troops. It was such a symbol of pride to carry the flag and to wave that flag, and to have your flag captured, to have your colors go into the enemy hands was a terrible, terrible insult. Corporal Frank Waller is going to be caught up in this fight, and Waller doesn't intend to take the flag. That was never really his intention. He was just here because he was ordered to move forward. However, he's going to see the flag is unattended. He's going to take that flag. Some sources say that the flag was in the grasp of a severely wounded soldier, but he's going to take that flag. And at first he thinks about taking it back to the lines, back to the Union lines, but he decides against it. He decides it might be a suicide mission. So instead, Waller is going to put that flag on the ground, a grievous insult to the Mississippi colors. He's going to take that flag, put it on the ground, and stand on it. He is literally going to take a stand on the rebel colors. So Waller is standing on this flag, and he's going to fire his rifle and reload and fire his rifle again before the fighting itself is over at the railroad cut. And at one point, his brother Sam sees that a Confederate has drawn a bead on him, but Sam is going to take out that Confederate and save his brother's life. After the fighting here at the railroad cut, Waller would then turn the flag over to Rufus Dawes, leader of the 6th Wisconsin. Waller would later go on to be awarded the Medal of Honor for his brave act here in the railroad cut. As the fight for the flag is ongoing, the rest of the 6th Wisconsin, they are engaging the 2nd Mississippi. And as they reach the cut, they're going to send a small detachment of about 20 men over to the far east part of the line there, cutting the Mississippi's route of retreat to the east off. And the men are going to come and they're going to be pointing down, and it's going to be very much a shooting fish in a barrel situation. The Mississippians have nowhere to go, and they're going to order their surrender. But the Mississippians, they're not going to give up so easy. A rebel is going to shoot and kill Private John Harlan at close range. However, Private Levi Tongue, Harlan's good friend, is going to draw a bead down on this rebel soldier that shot his buddy. And the soldier, now having an empty, useless rifle and a bead drawn down on him, is going to plead for his life. Please don't kill me. Please don't shoot. Please spare me. Save me. And Tongue, very coldly, is going to look at him and say, all hell can't save you now. And he's going to fire and kill that rebel soldier. There will be some light resistance by the rebels in the cut. However, they're going to throw down their arms. Dawes is going to shout down to the Rebs, where is the colonel of this regiment? And a voice is going to answer up below, who are you? And Dawes is going to respond, I command this regiment, surrender or I will fire. Major Blair is going to come out of the railroad cut and surrender his men to Rufus Dawes. He realizes that this is not a great position now. What they thought was this really handy made rifle trench has now become a possible coffin for his regiment. Dawes is going to receive no less than 6 Confederate officer swords in the surrender. As the action on this east end of the cut is taking place, the 42nd Mississippi and the 55th North Carolina, they realize they need no invitation to engage in what the 2nd Mississippi just had to go through. So they're going to skedaddle out the railroad cut that way and head back west toward Ers Ridge. Dawes, later on, would report that the 6th Wisconsin took 7 officers and 225 enlisted men as prisoners as a direct result of the actions here at the railroad cut at Gettysburg. Incredible story. Incredible part of the Gettysburg battle here. Guys, if you get a chance, please come out and check out the railroad cut. So at the time of the battle, the railroad tracks weren't laid yet, so it really was just a trench. However, the railroad tracks are here now, and they are used by the railroad. So I have to highly recommend that you kind of explore the area at your own peril. As always, this is Aaron Smith for Forward Gettysburg. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and I will catch you on the next one.